Outrageous prediction time for Buckeye Talk. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Stephen Meads and Doug Lesmerises. These are our outrageous predictions for Ohio State's game Saturday night at Indiana, the resumption of Big Ten play after the Buckeyes took a week off. Stephen, what is your outrageous prediction?
Yeah, so Ryan Day's offenses have always been uber aggressive in the first half, and even if they've been among the nation's leaders in points per game, a bulk of that comes in the first half often, and that's been the case since CJ Stroud's come back with a healthy shoulder. They're averaging 40 points per game in the first half. The last two games they had 45 against Rutgers, and they had 35 2 weeks ago against Maryland. While Indiana, they're a pretty solid defensive team. They aren't what they were last year. Obviously, their defensive coordinator is now the head coach of South Alabama, so they're not everything that they were last year, but they've done a great job of holding teams in check in the first half, only giving up 13.8 points per first half through 6 games this season. I think Ohio State's going to blow that off the board. I'm going to say that they're going to have 45 points heading into halftime, just because of the way this offense is rolling and the way this offense is clicking and the way Ryan Day likes to operate in the first half. They might get a lot of their work done in the first half. And so I'm going to say 45 points in the first half against Indiana on Saturday.
45 points in the first half. When was the last time Ohio State scored 45 points in the first half?
2 weeks ago against Rutgers.
They had 45. You were saying they had 45 against Rutgers. That's right. One of those was a defensive touchdown.
It was. Yep.
So do you think defense gets on the board in this game?
Yes, but I don't think it comes in. I don't think it matters in the first half. I just think it's going to randomly happen at some point. I'm not calculating that into to where I get 45 from. It's more on the fact that, CJ Stroud and what these wide receivers can do.
Gotcha. So my outrageous prediction is on the defensive side of the ball. Last year, everyone probably remembers Michael Penix came in and had the best passing day by an Ohio State opponent since I think like 1985. You had to go pretty far back in history. He threw for 491 yards and 5 touchdowns, was only intercepted once. We don't know who exactly is going to be quarterbacking Indiana. It might be multiple guys on Saturday, but we have a combination right now of an Ohio State team that's been very good at taking the ball away from opponents and an Indiana offense that has been pretty good or bad, depending on how you look at it, at giving the ball away to opponents. So I'm going to take Ohio State with 4 interceptions on Saturday. They're going to, I think the defensive line is going to be healthier than it's been before. It's going to cause some pressure. And interceptions are the most unpredictable thing that you can throw out there, really, in a lot of ways. But I think this is just a mix of a team that is pretty unsteady with the ball in Indiana and an Ohio State defense that, while it's still having to grow in some important ways, does seem to have some guys who legitimately have a nose for the ball and know how to get it away from their opponent. So 4 picks for the Buckeyes from me. Doug, what is your outrageous prediction?
So this is a defense that likes to blitz, that'll take some chances. Do you guys know how many 100-yard receiving games Garrett Wilson has in his career? He's played 27 games. Like 13 of them were when he was a freshman and not really a starter, but what's your guess?
5.
It's like 8 or 9 because he had a bunch of them in a row to start last season.
It's 7. So
Okay.
he had 4 in a row to start last year. And in his last 10 games, he has 2 because he didn't have any the last 4 games of last year, and he has 2 in 6 games so far this year. His career high in receiving yards is against Indiana last year. I think he had 7 for 169, and that makes sense to me. It was 7 for 169. Chris Olave also had 100 receiving yards against Indiana last year. Justin Fields threw for 300. This is a team that's going to blitz. It's going to take some chances. And Garrett Wilson seems to me like the kind of receiver that you can burn defenses with if they take a chance and send a blitz and you read it and you get it out quick and you let him get the ball and go. I feel like Garrett Wilson is having a very good year, but we're having this discussion, right? It's the midway point, midway All-American, midway All Big Ten. Like David Bell just dropped the bomb on Iowa last week. I feel like it's kind of time for Garrett Wilson to drop a bomb on somebody, to have a game where it's like, oh, if you think Garrett Wilson maybe should be a first-team All-American, like where's the crazy game? So I'm not going to go too crazy, but I'll say Garrett Wilson breaks his personal record for receiving yards in a game, which was set against Indiana last year at 169. So I'll say he gets 170 or more. But like maybe it's time for Garrett Wilson to have a 200-yard game. Maybe it's time for Garrett Wilson to just go 9 for 212 or something because he's catching stuff on the run and taking off. He's been really consistent and really good after a season a year ago where he started off super hot. And then like in the Big Ten championship game, right, when Chris Olave wasn't there, like Garrett Wilson didn't have a very good game. So I think maybe it's time for the best game we've ever seen Garrett Wilson have.
I like what you're thinking. The one thing I will say that I might take the under, though, is David Bell got to play all 4 quarters, had to play all 4 quarters to put up that game he did against Iowa. I wonder if this game goes the way it could, how many snaps Garrett Wilson plays in the second half, let alone in the fourth quarter.
I mean, this is definitely, is this not the best defense they've played? I don't know. Steven is getting very, very, very outrageous with his outrageous predictions. I don't know whatever the 275 rushing yards was for TreVeyon Henderson a couple weeks ago, like 45 points in the first half is like crazy. If they do that, they did that against Rutgers. Yes, Rutgers is still incompetent. Indiana has like 3 all Big Ten defensive players. So like if Indiana scores, if Ohio State scores like 21 in the first half against Indiana, I'm going to mention this on the post-game pod because like it is a high bar of just like Ohio State is just going to absolutely not be stopped at any point in the first 30 minutes by an Indiana team that like maybe has the best linebacker in the Big Ten, right? I mean, that is, if they do that, and if you're right, we'll start off the pod with it because to drop 45 in the first half on a real defense, I did the math very quickly. That would be on pace for 90 points in a game. So I'm just like, that would be quite a thing. I do think it might be. I don't think this game's necessarily over at halftime, especially on the road at night. It's Indiana's game. Like, I don't think Garrett Wilson has to get 170 yards in the first half because they're not going to play the starters in the second half. I think it might be a little bit of a game for at least 2.5 quarters.
Yeah, to address yours first, I think what might play into that is part of the reason he did what he did against Indiana is they kind of established him early. That first drive was all Garrett Wilson for 75 yards, 2 catches, and then he was just settled in after that. I think when Justin threw his first interception, you texted our texters, just like Steven Means, Justin Fields fell in love with Garrett Wilson a little too much right there, which was right. That's possible because Ryan does do that sometimes. Well, he'll purposely I'm going to go to this receiver, and we're just going to make this a very quick first drive. So does he do that with Garrett in the first opening drive like he did last year? Mine is, I'm not saying that they're going to score 90 points in the game. That's never the case when they have these big time first halves. It's simply they just got up big and then they just coasted the rest of the game. And last year it was 28-7 at halftime. So I'm saying, can you score 3 more times basically?
Which is a ton more.
Which is a ton more points.
45 is quite a bit more than 28. It's not a little bit more.
The number 45 is just because the category is outrageous prediction. But the point I'm trying to make here is can their offense really get rolling in the first half? But yes, if they score, maybe we do need to change it from just outrageous prediction to something else. But the point still kind of stands here.
It should be rageous predictions, not outrageous, just rageous.
Just rageous.
Nutrageous. I enjoy nutrageous. But an outrageous prediction that has it like a 5% chance of coming true, at least. To the point of getting a guy involved, right? Chris Olave, no catches against Tulsa, 2 against Akron. Hey, what's up with Chris Olave? Last 2 games, 12 catches, 239 yards total, 4 total touchdowns. The minute we said, hey, what's up with Chris Olave, they made sure Chris Olave got fed. Maybe it's time to feed Garrett Wilson. He hasn't had a drop off like Chris Olave had with the no catch game, but maybe it's time to feature Garrett Wilson.
Could be. I do think though that if he's getting that kind of total, that it might be, like you say, it might be a game a little bit closer. By a game, I mean not like what we saw these last 3 weeks, where Ohio State just drubbed somebody into kind of oblivion, where it's a normal, comfortable win for Ohio State.
I mean, we'll get into this in our picks video, but like I do think Indiana is a significant step ahead as a competent football team compared to Rutgers and Maryland. Yes. They have 4 losses to like all ranked teams. Their quarterback got hurt, but like defensively, they're like a real team, and they gave Michigan State some trouble last week. So I do not think this is an off to the races, Ohio State does what it wants on every single possession against Indiana kind of game.
We'll see how it goes Saturday night in Bloomington. those are your outrageous predictions. Listen to us on Buckeye Talk.